Welcome to Nothing Finer. I'm your host, Rick Beach, along with Austin Island.
Hey.
Austin, that's a weird not having Georgia football after having 13 weeks.
Yeah. It's like an empty void, we're trying to fill, but, it won't be too long. We'll be able to watch one last time anyway.
Yeah, we'll get, 2 more weeks, and then we'll get a shot at it. Then we get the long break.
Uh-huh.
But, hey, today we got a guest coming on the phone. He's been at AJC as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
Been at the Atlanta Journal. Chip Towers calling in. Chip, you there?
I'm here.
Hey, bud. Thanks for calling in.
Well, that's no problem at all.
All right, so we'll go right into it. What can you say about the hype around the football team with the bowl game coming up? Because we know the fan base, obviously with the ticket sales being down. What's the hype, the football team around the bowl game?
Well, I definitely wouldn't call it hype. I mean, you're right. You alluded to it. I'm going there because it's my job to go there. But most of the people that I know, really in my personal life and social life who normally would be, jumping through a brick wall to go to New Orleans are saying they're not going to be able to make it this year for this reason or that reason. Yeah. So it really is fascinating kind of the effect that the college football playoff has had on the bowl system because, the Sugar Bowl has always been, the pinnacle of Georgia football. I mean, basically you started every year for decades with the hope of reaching the Sugar Bowl. That was always the SEC's ultimate destination. And here's Georgia heading back for a second straight year. And, it's kind of a disappointment, almost a consolation game. But they're not going to be able to treat it like that. The team's not. They did last year.
Right.
And, Texas handed them an L. And Baylor will certainly do the same thing if Georgia doesn't go with a different attitude this year.
Yeah, Baylor seems to be the kind of team, they'll hit you in the mouth. They actually play defense, unlike a lot of Big 12 teams. And for Kirby, we talked about this as third straight Big 12 opponent, fourth straight bowl game with the Big 12. So usually it's the offense. I think Baylor has the ability to hit us in the mouth, and Georgia better be ready. So with that being said, we had the James Cook arrest over the weekend. We know the handbook's kind of been at UGA with alcohol arrest. Would this be considered alcohol arrest and an automatic suspension?
I assume it is. That's one of the things that's really kind of been lead and by Kirby Smart. It used to be pretty straightforward, but obviously he has a little bit more latitude to adjust those things. And, depending on what the details of the situation are. And right now, I don't know enough of the, internal details to think, was he giving somebody a ride home? Was he not really doing anything, untoward, or did he get caught doing something he shouldn't have been? And so we'll find out soon enough. We'll get a chance to talk with Kirby on Wednesday, and I imagine a lot of light will be shed on that. But, as depending on the situation with DeAndre Swift, whether he's going to participate in the bowl or not, Georgia needs James Cook. And this is definitely, based on Kirby's comments, he's really looking for the younger players and the players that are going to be returning next season to, bring the energy to the team for this year's Sugar Bowl. And certainly James Cook would have been, he fits right in that category.
Oh, yeah. Now let's talk about those rumors that came up on social media. I think it was Friday. Have you heard anything about George Pickens being in any kind of trouble at Georgia?
Listen, man, I don't like to participate in rumors whatsoever. Rumors are always out there. They're constantly being floated, and unless I can validate them, I don't like to talk about rumors. So I don't know anything about anything with George Pickens other than he's still on the roster and will be until we hear otherwise.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that. And I agree with you on rumors. It seems it's coming from other boards on other teams. So the good thing about last week, out of all the seemed like some bad news kept coming, was the Matt Luke hire. Now, what do you think that hire means at UGA, and how would you grade it?
Well, I think it's an A+. That's about as good as you could possibly recover from. And look, this is the world that Kirby Smart has you living in right now. And really, this has always been the case with Georgia. Georgia is a destination program. And, when these coaches get opportunities to leave for head coaching jobs, that's not a bad thing. That just happens. Sam Pittman's done great work here. He's 58 years old. He's, toiled his entire professional career as an offensive line coach. And, as he said himself when he took the job at Arkansas, that Kirby Smart helped him take recruiting to a new level for himself personally. And the reward for that, Georgia had done everything they could possibly do. They were paying him $900,000 a year as an O-line coach and giving him a title as associate head coach. So, there's only one place to go from there, and that was a head coaching job. And I'm really happy for Sam to land basically his dream job there at Arkansas. And we'll talk about whether he can, whether he's going to be able to do a good job there or not. It's a hard job he got. Anyway, you're left with a void on your staff. And the real question on the Matt Luke whole equation was whether Matt Luke was wanting to, continue to coach right away. I mean, with these buyouts, these head coaches are getting, same thing with Mike Bobo. Nobody could blame those guys for wanting to take a year off because they're going to get paid anyway. So they don't have to go right back to work. But, most of these football lifers like those guys, they want to get back out there as soon as possible. And so my point on that is just the fact that Matt Luke was ready to go back to work was probably the hardest part of that. I don't know whether Kirby had to convince him or not. Again, we'll find out on Wednesday. But, having a guy who was a head coach, who has name recognition like Matt Luke, who has, recruiting ties, in Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, and throughout the South, Memphis, that area is really, really important to Georgia. And I think it's going to help them, keep this current recruiting class together, because that could have been disastrous if, you had to turn around and elevate, promote a young guy that nobody knew of.
Hey, Chip, keeping in theme with the offense, what do you think about there being any more offensive changes on the staff, like more specifically wide receiver coach? Do you see Kirby trying to move away from Cortez Hankton, or do you see this as just a bad year, not much talent to go with, a lot of guys who had to put a lot more on their shoulders than they're used to, or, how do you see that situation kind of playing out?
Well, I have no reason to think that Kirby Smart is about to make a change at wide receiver or offensive coordinator. A lot of people were asking me, mostly on social media and stuff like that, why didn't Georgia go after Mike Bobo? And I said, well, because they didn't have a position open. South Carolina had an opening for an offensive coordinator. Georgia did not. And based on all the things that happened this past season, I didn't see any reason why Kirby Smart would, step up and fire James Coley. Now, there were a lot of things that did not go well for the offense this season, but we should have seen a lot of them coming. Basically losing 4 of your top 5 wide receivers, and then you get a really good one in Lawrence Cager, and then you can't keep him healthy at the end of the year. And I think there was a trickle down effect from there. I don't really put that on Cortez Hankton or James Coley. But, again, the offense didn't perform up to snuff, and people are upset about that. But you got to be careful about firing, a position coach every time his position does not perform well. If you do that, every year, you're going to lose a lot of ground in recruiting, and you're going to lose a lot of ground in development, because every time you make a change, then here comes a different voice, a different philosophy, a different way of doing things. So, Georgia went 11-1, guys. I don't anticipate a bunch of coaching changes.
Yeah, and Chip, I know you spoke briefly on DeAndre Swift's, chance of going pro, which I'm pretty sure is probably a pretty high percentage that he will. What are you hearing about other juniors in this class? How many decisions have you heard, or people who are on the fence right now, or things like that?
Well, it's going to be interesting, the timing of all this. And look, college football, it's a new world. I mean, it's a totally new world. If you're a junior with high draft possibilities and you're not playing in the college football playoff, odds are you're not going to participate in a bowl game. And, I think that's definitely going to be the case for DeAndre Swift, just based on what we saw in the SEC championship game. My understanding now, I'm not, excuse me, calling out DeAndre Swift in any way, shape, or form because, everybody's got to do what they do. But
right.
my understanding of his bruised shoulder situation, I mean, he could have played more than he did in the SEC championship game and not have been risking any kind of permanent injury. I mean, he had a bruised shoulder, so it's about pain, right? And so, basically the I would say that the decision between DeAndre Swift and the coaching staff was not to run inside. So he only gets 5 touches in the biggest game of the year. So based on that, I wouldn't think he would risk anything by playing in the Sugar Bowl game that's, probably not going to benefit his draft status. The other side of that is Andrew Thomas. Now, but I averaged it out the other day. His average draft projection is, 3. I mean, he everywhere you look in these mock drafts, and you can't make a whole lot out of those mock drafts, but everybody's got him in top 5. If you're a top 5 pick,
yeah.
I'd kind of doubt you participate, but Andrew Thomas hadn't said that. And I talked to both him and DeAndre directly about it after the SEC championship game, and both of them say that they'll, talk it over with their parents and coaches and come to a decision. What we'll find out on Wednesday is kind of when Kirby wants those decisions to come out. I mean, I would imagine that on the recruiting trail, they already know, what those guys are going to do because they have to be armed with that information with this early signing period. And I would imagine Kirby's asked those guys to let them know what their plans are right now. I think those 2 guys are most certainly probably gone.
Yeah, I agree with, I think them 2 won't come back, and I don't think either one should or will play in the bowl game because of the high risk. And they have nothing to really gain by playing, where somebody like a LeCount or J.R. Reed, they can improve their draft stock. Before we let you go, Chip, I know you did recruiting for years with the Atlanta Journal. Do you, envy the guys now with this? What do you think about this early signing period, and do you wish they would have had it when you covered it?
Well, I get it. I really hate the timing of it for a myriad of reasons. I get it, but I hate it for the coaches. It's not like they're not compensated for their work, but there really is no let up.
Yeah.
All the way right up into the Christmas holiday, and then you got to travel for the bowl. And it's the same thing for us, the beat writers and the recruiting writers. I mean, it's just added a whole nother chapter. I always thought that a early signing period to me made great sense in August or late July or somewhere like that. Now you're looking at it's a 12-month calendar now anyway in college football. But I thought it made sense for the guys who had their mind made up and wanted to concentrate on their senior seasons. Why not let them go ahead and be able to sign and do what they need to do? Now, the flip side of that is the player side of it. What about coaches get fired and that kind of thing? But I think what they've shown with the transfer portal and everything, if you have a change on the coaching staff, that would probably null and void any kind of signed letter of intent you had. So I don't like it in December. I'd like it better in, I don't know, June, July, August, somewhere in there makes more sense to me. But it is what it is. And it's interesting. I'm actually sitting here. I used to cover recruiting full time, not for a long time, but for a couple of years. But now I'm back to doing it in beat writer style. I don't really pay close attention until we get right here close to a signing day. And, a lot of drama for Georgia's class. They're sitting here at number 6 as of this morning. That's pretty good. It's actually a little below Kirby Smart's standards. But, they got a commitment over the weekend from a big lineman, a big flip from Penn State. And, Kirby, it's been amazing during his entire tenure, man. He always has some big surprises on National Signing Day. So it's a good mid-December drama that you wouldn't otherwise have. So from that standpoint, you guys talking on the air and I guess me selling newspapers and subscriptions and such, it's good for that.
All right. Well, Chip, I appreciate you calling in today. It was great talking to you. And like I said, where can people go to read your stuff now?
Well, the easiest way to follow me is at C Towers AJC on Twitter. I link all my stories and stuff on there. And, of course, you can always read all my stories on ajc.com anytime.
I appreciate it, Chip. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Well, he kind of hinted around it with Pittman going up there. He's 58 years old. we're going to go right into the Pittman conversation with he hired Barry Odom as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Which I think is a solid move. Hiring a previous head coach because Pittman don't have that head coach experience. Yeah. How do you think this is going to work out in Arkansas? Do you think this is going to be a success, or you think it's a dream that Pittman had that, may or may not work out so good?
Yeah, I think Pittman's got ties to Arkansas and things like that. So, I think he had probably wanted to take this job for a while just because it's something he wants to do. I'm sure he knows how difficult it's going to be, considering where Arkansas has been and since the Brett Bielema days and, and how it's not gotten any better really. So he's really got a tough road ahead of him.
They got to be patient with him. That's the thing. They got to be patient.
Yeah, I mean, you bring this guy in and it's a work in progress, and it's going to be for a while, man, because the West is getting really good. I mean, A&M's really good, LSU's good, Bama's good, Auburn's,
Ole Miss hiring Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, Ole Miss Lane Kiffin. I mean, that's scary, honestly. I mean, I think Lane Kiffin will probably surprise a lot of people and beat a lot of folks. I mean, I don't know what the situation is with folks transferring out of there because of the Matt Luke situation, but
I think he held it together better than some hires would have been.
Yeah.
Well, let's flip it over from the West to the East. Yeah. Let's say, Tennessee, they finished at 7-5 this year.
Yeah.
We know the Georgia
Great
State
turnaround
loss.
By Jeremy Pruitt.
So easily could have been a 9-win season like we were thinking before the season. But Florida they're having a little staying power with, you got the South Carolina hire Mike Bobo. Yeah. Maybe they can turn.
That's a big deal.
So the East could be having where we don't have the heavyweights at the top, where the West has the Alabama, Auburn, LSU, obviously. Yeah. But you're looking at Florida trying to become a heavyweight. They beat Auburn this year. They hung with LSU a little bit. I'll say they hung with them better than Georgia did, which we obviously didn't have all the weapons on offense. But do you see the East slowly building back up to being where they need to be?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of do see that. I do love the progress that Jeremy Pruitt made this year. I think, I really believe that he'll get his ship righted and turned around a bit quicker than Will Muschamp will, even with the Bobo hire.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, it just seems like, Will Muschamp's kind of fumbling around a little bit, and I think, bringing Bobo in will bring some stability, at least to the offensive side of the ball. But the way Pruitt coaches and how fiery he is and the way he can go recruit and stuff, I think Pruitt will be making a run for second place in the East easy next year.
I think the biggest thing I look at, if you just want to narrow it down to Muschamp and Pruitt, was South Carolina had momentum a little bit after that Georgia game. They had the first half. Then they just fell off. It seemed Pruitt was able to circle the wagons.
Yeah.
They righted the ship. Georgia, BYU happened. The Georgia State, BYU happened. They got through the 3-game stretch when they had, all these SEC games in Bama, Georgia, Florida. And then they got it right. And, that goes a long way for these young guys on that team and going into the future where I see Tennessee, that was big for Pruitt. Now, what it means for next year obviously don't mean anything because I thought they did it last year, had some momentum for this season. But I see the East getting a little bit better, kind of chipping at it.
Yeah.
But the East, somebody has to come up with Georgia, become a heavyweight. Yeah. And we love seeing Georgia play in the SEC
we know Florida's the closest to that right now.
But they're going to lose a lot of talent this year. Now, how well Mullen's been recruiting, they've been top 10, top 12, top 10, and that's good. It's nowhere near the level of.
There's a huge difference between top 5 and top 10, from the.
LSU and Alabama and Georgia have been in that top 3, top 5 for multiple seasons. And I know Georgia fans are tired of seeing it because where's the national championship?
They want to see the results.
It's one of them slow things at Georgia. It's coming. The championships have got to be coming with this talent or else other things will be coming down the line.
Yeah.
But you got to see where Georgia's been recruiting at. And I expect Wednesday, Georgia, Chip said they're 6 now after their commitment this weekend. But they're going to jump up.
Yeah, I can see us jumping to 4-3, so right in that top 3.
We're taking 24, I believe, this year. So you're looking at, we're not taking as many scholarships as a lot of teams are, but we got 15 commits, and we're hanging in there with these guys with 24, 25 commits.
Yeah.
So I see Wednesday as being a real big day for Georgia. And again, it's something to be excited about. After what happened last week with the loss to LSU, we had the decommitments, we had the coach leave, there's a lot of things last week, the James Cook arrest, but you can see this week, this is that, hope of eternal. This is that, new thing of the future's looking good at Georgia, where when somebody decommits, it seems a little doom and gloom a lot of fans have.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah, that's part of the process. That's things that have been going on in Tuscaloosa for 12 years now. I mean, that's just part of it.
LSU had 2 or 3 decommit last week, and then we got that Jermaine, I think it's Lawrence, the kid, Jermaine Burton.
Yeah.
He could be flipping from LSU to Georgia, the wide receiver. So that don't mean anything bad on LSU. It just happens.
Yeah, it's about It's about kids just finding a place where they think they can go have an opportunity to shine early, and that's what I think recruiting is about a lot in this time. And I think that's why wide receivers are attracted to Georgia in this 2020 class, because there's a lot of guys leaving, and you got Pickens and Blaylock, and you want to go be a part of that room and get your chance to get some catches and get some shine.
And Georgia has done a good job at wide receiver. The only team in the country for 6 years in a row to have a wide receiver drafted is Georgia. The only team. So Georgia, you might not have the A.J. Greens every year, but we've been able to put players in the league. A little bit of a slow year this year with the wide receiver room, whether it be injuries. We don't know about the lack of development. Maybe Matt Landers, we knew he was raw coming in out of St. Pete. He just was never where he went to be. Like a Marlon Brown, he came in, it took him a couple of years, and he became a great wide receiver. But, Tyler Simmons wasn't brought into Georgia to be, A1 wideout.
Well, some guys just got it, man.
Right.
Like when you look at George Pickens, he's just got it. And there's no, he's got everything, every tool he needs already as an 18-year-old freshman, and Tyler Simmons and a lot of these guys aren't like that. They had to work, and, they're built on blocking and being team players.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
And there is nothing wrong with that, and it was just a horrible downturn for us this year because, a lot of the guys that we thought would be playmakers, are Cager with the injury and Pickens kind of being boneheaded at the end of the year and getting in some trouble and things like that. So, it's just part of it, man. And so I think getting some receivers in to replenish this room is going to be huge for 2020. And I think, if Jake Fromm does decide to come back, which we still have no word on or any kind of news, or people are just left to speculate on that right now.
I think that'll be after the bowl game.
But I think he'll announce after the bowl game. I'm sure he's going to play. He doesn't want to be any kind of distraction. I know, knowing how Jake Fromm is. So
let's go into this a week after. We know last week we was still kind of had that bad taste in the mouth from the SEC championship. Let's look at it now with a week to kind of decompress. Look at it. Where do you see this offensive coaching staff at Georgia with saying, maybe it wasn't Hankton's development. Maybe it's what you have to develop.
Yeah.
Pickens still did good.
Definitely.
Don Blaylock had a good season.
Pickens,
yes, there's
Blaylock.
boneheaded mistakes and blocking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you could attribute that to the players being young.
Yeah.
Because the older guys were making the right blocks. They just couldn't catch.
Yeah. Yeah, and, that was definitely a problem. Some of these older guys, it just seems like they don't have, the kind of hands that these superstars like Pickens and Blaylock and, the guys last year, Ridley and Godwin and, Nada and these guys, and it's who you had. So, it's hard to say whether it's on development or not, because maybe these guys were just developed as far as they can be, and, they are what they are, and we just kind of got stuck in between a year where we had a bunch of studs and they all left, and a year where we got some more coming in, and in 2019 things just kind of soured a little bit because we didn't have the pieces we needed.
And that's
it's kind of hard to tell right now, but I think Coley and Hankton will probably get it right. They get some more pieces in, and Coley's, we've talked about the creativity over, and I beat that dead horse, over and over, but it's something that I think he can definitely improve easily, so it's just looking going forward. I think if we can get the right pieces in, we can get back to that 2018 kind of offense that's putting up a lot of points and things like that.
Yeah, I agree with what Chip said. You can't fire a coach on having a bad year. Number one, recruiting.
Yeah.
But other head coaches coming in. When somebody like Pittman goes from offensive line coach to head coach, that attracts other head coach or other assistant coaches. That's why you get a Matt Luke to come right on board.
Yeah.
It was Tuesday, so 48 hours after Pittman leaves, we get Matt Luke, because Matt Luke knows he could spin this Georgia job to a head coaching job somewhere because Sam Pittman did it. You start firing coaches 1 year into their, or they have one bad season, you fire them. Other coaches going to be a little more hesitant on coming to coach under you. And plus with Coley, it's his first year at Georgia as the offensive coordinator.
I think it might be too early. Coley's built so many relationships, recruiting-wise in the state of Florida and everything, so I could see where Chip was coming from talking about that, because Coley is a good recruiter, and, he's bringing in some, Marcus Rosemy and a lot of these guys that,
Florida.
That could be a shot in the arm for this offense. So I think it's something that, we should really look at moving forward, but I think Coley's safe for now.
I do, too, and I think on the field, when you're looking, the first-year offensive coordinator coming in, first-year calling plays, how many teams do you see a first-year offensive coordinator come in and they win the national title with that coordinator? Now, we know Bama was doing it.
Yeah.
But, maybe that's just the odd.
Lane Kiffin's just a different dude.
He had that offense rolling, and then when they got the guy, I forget the guy's name, he came in from the Bills.
Yeah.
But he ran a similar offense. And Georgia's similar, but it's different than when we had Chaney.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
A lot of the running schemes are different. And
a lot of emotions and stuff.
Yeah,
it's a little different.
It's kind of hard, and I know fans are now, must have instant gratification. But sometimes it takes, maybe it takes another year. Now, that being said, I don't go back on if Coley don't have anything fixed by next year. Then you have to turn that page. And that's when, Kirby will have to answer them questions if nothing changes. But at the same time, you're looking at Coley thinking, well, you got the first year, the communication. We saw the signs. That was brought in from Coley. So, if they brought in something like the signs, your signals are different. A lot of stuff. The verbiage is a big deal with coming in, and everything changed on offense. And, that's something where you want him, if he comes back, to have a third different quarterback coach in his 4 years. So I'm thinking Coley's going to come back, unless he got a head coaching job would have come up, which FAU filled that void. So I don't think he's going to have another head coaching job come up that he could be linked to. But I think this team is going to be fine next year with Coley. But it's one of them situations where if it's not, these fans are relentless. And it's, my thing is the fans you see on social media, that's a small percentage of the actual Georgia fans.
Yeah, definitely.
And, the internet, as many good things it has, is giving everybody
That's always
a
the
voice.
most negative ones that stand out, too, because they get the most retweets and, and all that kind of stuff.
That's why they say. A lot of these things are said just for likes. And
it's all for clicks,
So I get it. That's the way they want to play it. But, going back with Coley, he's got to perform next year, and the offense has to improve, whether it be Jake Fromm come back or it's Dewan Mathis, or if it's Carson Beck,
if it's transfer,
or if it's that sexy transfer coming out of Houston that everybody's wanting. If we get something like that, this offense could open up, and then everybody's praising Coley, and he'll go get a Power 5 head coaching job. And that's how it works. People will forget. We go in this bowl game and score 40-something points. And it's maybe Coley does have it figured out. I don't think we will.
No.
We'll get into the bowl game a little more on the bowl show we got coming up. But I think it's going to be a fist fight against Baylor. Baylor's done fist fights all year. We've been in fist fights all year. It'll be in the 20s. It'll be a low-scoring game. And plus, we might not have DeAndre Swift or James Cook.
Which is fine. I mean, you got young guys who need Zamir White, Kenny Mack. I mean, these guys need to get some carries. I think that's huge.
Kenny McIntosh has been almost forgotten about. And especially, we got Kendall Milton going to sign Wednesday. And everybody's saying we got Zamir, Cook, and Milton. Kenny McIntosh was a 4-star coming out of Florida. So a lot of good things going on at Georgia. When you have a bad week like last week, the horrible beatdown we got.
It sticks around for a while.
It sticks around. But when you look at big picture, when you look at the entire big picture, Georgia's going to be fine. We got the talent. We got even more talent coming in. We just hired a super talented offensive line coach who's produced multiple first-round draft pick offensive linemen. So for everything bad, it seems like we've had good things happen. Signing day Wednesday, everybody needs to keep up with it. It's all the time we got this week. So get ready for Wednesday. Bowl game coming up. You can get tickets on StubHub for $12.
$12.
So knock them out. That's all we got. God bless. Go Dogs.